So can we tackle the big question up first? Because I just said this word, Tensegrity. Some people are going to go, oh, Tensegrity, I know what that is and I know where that came from. But a lot of us are going to say, what is Tensegrity and what has that got to do with movement dysfunction, enhancing performance, increasing my health? So what is Tensegrity and what does it mean to us?
So to us who try to look at lots of movement or sports or as therapists, Tensegrity is something that's, it's nothing new. It's been around for half a century at least, and is a concept which is derived from original biomechanics but applied to explain more complex structures that all originate from biology. So we're talking about from the cellular microscopic size to a human size. This Tensegrity idea or the Tensegrity model applies to all our bodies and all organisms, all animals, mammals in the world. And what is very exciting today is how we can use that to explain how movement can be efficient and how it can shift us away from the traditional view of the traditional side of biomechanics, where we look at the body as our third-class lever systems from basic physics.
1, 2, and 3.
Yeah, 1, 2, and 3, which I still remember back in university when we studied about third-class levers, that our body uses this lever system and that it was basically very inefficient. It was almost the most inefficient way of using our muscular force to move a joint. And that already just kind of boggled my mind, just kind of thinking, how is it that we're not efficient, but yet our body is so adaptable to doing extraordinary things, like jumping 9 meters, 10 meters in a long jump, or sprinting 100 meters under 10 seconds. And that's what really got me to be fascinated about doing what I do, studying biomechanics with kinesiology, going to physical therapy. And why I think we got so excited about talking about Tensegrity is Tensegrity really changed the way that I saw human movement, how I even work with athletes for strength and conditioning or enhancing performance. It really took a 180-degree turn on how I saw things, given that I thought I appreciated the biomechanics of what we learned back in university, from just gross anatomy to simple physics and biomechanics.
I think a few points. So the fulcrums and lever system, the way that we traditionally looked at the human body, the Italian guy Borelli from the 1600s, he was a mathematician. So that's 400 years. He's a smart guy. Let's not take anything away from Borelli. Like he did some amazing things. But we there has to come a time where we're like, our understanding of the human body is, 20 years ago, we went, you know what? The brain, you're not born with the same amount of brain cells. You can actually regrow brain cells. So our understanding of the human body in the past 20 years, let alone 400 years, has greatly expanded. So I think sort of behooves upon us to go, Borelli was incredible. And there may be a context where that fulcrums and levers, traditional bodybuilding, maybe there might be a way if I isolate out a joint, I can really see that the elbow might be, a good fulcrum point when I'm doing a bicep curl. We can look at that. But then if we step forward, so Tensegrity, the origins of the word are tensional integrity, correct? And
correct.
Buckminster Fuller, who was a genius, come up with that term, like you were saying, a long time ago, 50, 60 years ago. And then from there, where we started to turn the lens to the human body, well, I think it was an orthopedic surgeon, Dr. Stephen Levin, he's come up with this term biotensegrity.
Correct.
Because he was sort of noticing when he was doing what he does on the human body during surgery, and he'd sort of pull on a tendon, he'd notice how that would affect the whole body. So from that we go, Tensegrity, got it. Tensional integrity, so we have members that push out and members that pull in, and that's how we spread tension throughout the system.
Absolutely.
Correct? So if we apply that to the human body, what is pushing out and what is pulling in to create that tensional integrity, biotensegrity?
So that's where it gets real exciting, and it still confuses me to this time.
It's great, isn't it?
Which is great. and there's all these pioneers, yourself too, as a movement specialist yourself, and as an athlete. For myself, I'm still scratching the surface barely, and I know the whole world is scratching the surface on this on the science of movement, efficient movement, and using biotensegrity as the term to explain things. So just going back to what you said, so yeah, about the outward tension. So if we think of our human body, or even just think of a cell. Whenever we see a cell in a microscope, it's generally circular, and you see that it's got kind of viscoelastic properties. You kind of push a cell to one side, it'll kind of bend in with tension, but then it'll move away, almost like kind of an elastic property. It almost looks like a balloon, but again, it can get so much more complex than a balloon because going back to what you said about how so say our bones in our body want to expand the tensioning structures, which is our muscles, tendons, ligaments, fascia, which we need to talk more about too. But anyway,
great topic.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So the bones pushing out these soft tissues, and but the viscoelastic properties of these soft tissue also want to retract and tension in on these bones of our body, which is expanding out. So you've got this inwards and outwards. It's kind of like yin yang, or like reverse. Yeah, reverse. And whatever perspective you want to take it from, balance, everyone understands, is always very important. But it seems that Tensegrity has found this very, very interesting type of balance, which is very hard to measure objectively, which scientists and engineers and physicists have been trying to do for a long time, and thanks to Kenneth Nelson or Buckminster Fuller, we have these terms coined. But it's this balance that we find that usually, to put it simply, better movers, or people who have better body awareness and can move well, they tend to have a very good balance, simply put.
Cool. So bones push out, muscle, connective tissue, that thing called fascia, pull in. So those two, as long as, I love the yin yang, we are in Hong Kong. Bones push out, muscles, connective tissue, fascia, pull in. So there's that tensional integrity. So that equal balance of push and pull forces.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so when we apply that, one of the things that came up with that Dr. Stephen Levin that I was reading that I found fascinating, he said when he pulled on a tendon, he noticed that it spread into the whole structure. So that sort of gives us clues into anatomy. Here we are, we just mentioned that magical thing, something called fascia, which is also new to science, isn't it?
Absolutely.
So there's a lot of stuff that we don't understand about fascia, but there's things that we sort of can say with confidence, and we can say that fascia is a mechanism within the body that loves to distribute strain.
Yes.
So it can take force from the ground and spread it to the opposite shoulder in a majestic way. And if we apply a mathematical model to that using first, second and third class levers, we're like, hang on a minute, that just doesn't work. And if someone was to do an Olympic lift, following that mathematical model, well, the knee joint would probably be good for about 100 lifts and then it'd be gone. Yeah. And then if we apply, and what they did do, they apply that mathematical model to a dinosaur with a really long neck. And again, the Borelli, the genius, made, we're still talking about him 400 years ago.
Absolutely.
So kudos to Borelli and his Italian mates.
Of course.
But we've just taken a different lens. And it's not as if we need to throw the baby out with the bathwater, do we? There's times when the algorithm of Borelli's mathematical model, fulcrums and levers, we can apply to ourselves and when working with clients. And then there's another time when we go, you know what, I'm just going to park that over there in a spectrum. I'm going to give that about 10% of my focus. But here I'm going to try to play with my understanding, my current understanding of biotensegrity.
Yeah, absolutely. If it wasn't for what we had from Borelli 400 years ago, we might not be here from what we're talking about. And looking at fascia as a suit of glove, or Tom Myers uses like calling a unitard, like a full body suit that helps spread forces around. End of the day, I do truly believe, as much as Tensegrity I've been very excited about for the last few years, we always have to go back to the basics, because that really helps us simplify the understanding of movement mechanics, and that is the basis of all biomechanics, especially if you are those who work with clients and patients who need improvement in movement, whether it's for health or performance enhancement. This is very important to talk about. So I think you made a really good point. It's good to keep in mind, but to get an even better, further understanding, this is why it's so important to have a basic concept of Tensegrity and why it can explain a your neck pain is affecting how your big toe moves. Something crazy like that.
Yeah, it's fascinating, isn't it? So really, as far as you're concerned, being a physical therapist, it really opens up the options. You better be a great detective, huh?
Oh yeah, I don't know about that, but yeah, we're basically detectives, and to be honest, majority of the time, you really need to investigate hard. There's as much as some people read movement, read the body, and it comes from biopsychosocial aspects, but there are those who read it better, but you definitely have to spend a good amount of time investigating. I don't believe in those who make too many assumptions about one type of injury and saying, oh, then it's going to be fixed with this, so you just need to strengthen this and loosen that, and it can apply, and it's always good because most of the time people just need to get moving. Movement will always help, maybe in a way that they don't know why it happened. But and that's the thing about clinical practice. All we have is the investigation we do with the client, and it's really just hit or miss. You're guessing. You're really investigating, guessing, and it's just the better ones do it in a more efficient amount of time. And that's something I'm continuing to hone as I work with clients, and I do enjoy it every day. Sometimes it's really tough. Sometimes I can spend an hour with the client and I still feel I'm completely lost because I know there's something else out there, but I have to find something to share with the client to say, you know what, I'll be frank, I'm a bit lost, but let's try doing this. I won't scare them away with, showing them Tensegrity models, but definitely something I'll introduce to them. But no, it's really fun though, definitely is, because sometimes it also does explain very clear-cut compared to what we might have traditionally studied through looking at simple physics and biomechanics.